Did you know that every odd number generation has introduced a new mushroom type Pokemon that can learn Spore? Generation 9 mushroom Pokemon incoming? Let's talk about some insane Pokemon facts. Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today, and today we're gonna dive into some pretty cool Pokemon facts that I thought you guys would enjoy. We're gonna break down 21 of them, and many of them are probably gonna blow your mind. I was actually pretty enticed and surprised to find out a lot of this information. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video down below, and of course subscribe to the channel below, and make sure you guys let me know which one of these facts you knew or didn't know, and if there's more insane Pokemon facts you'd like to see me cover on the channel, feel free to let me know. I will say that I was inspired to make this video by a Reddit user named MXTony, so big shout outs to them. They do a cool little series and I've been following along. I thought it'd be fun to kind of cover some of those insane Pokemon facts. But without further ado, let's dive into the facts and tell you a little bit about Pokemon and some of the craziness that has taken place. Did you know that the move Bite is the only move to have its category, physical or special, changed twice throughout different generations? In Generation 1, Bite was actually a normal type move, and I remember using it with my Wartortle back in the day, and it was a physical attack as a result of that. But then Generation 2 introduced Dark typing, and then it became a special type in Gen 2 and 3, and then they split it in Gen 4 and it became physical again. So kind of crazy. Bite has really gone through the gauntlet with that, switching from physical to special to now physical again. I thought this one was really cool. Mr. Rime is one of the new Pokemon that was introduced in Generation 8, but it's the only Generation 8 Pokemon that can actually have its game of origin as Generation 4, because in Diamond and Pearl you can obtain a Mime Jr. and transfer it up to Sword and Shield and then evolve it into Galarian Mr. Mime and then ultimately evolve it into Mr. Rime. So no other Pokemon can do that and have that far of kind of a backlog. So you could legitimately have a Mr. Rime with origins in Sinnoh, Diamond and Pearl, the original games. That's pretty dope. I found this one crazy, and as a bug-type master, I'm surprised I didn't know this, but Weedle is apparently the only Pokemon that is incapable of learning normal-type moves. Who would have thought? Caterpie, Wurmple get Tackle, Unknown gets Hidden Power, Cosmog and Cosmoem get Splash, Smeargle gets Sketch, Ditto gets Transform, and even Kakuna gets Harden. All of those are normal-type moves, and Weedle only gets Poison Sting, String Shot, Bug Bite, and a few Move Tutor moves like Electro Web, none of which are normal. So this Pokemon is apparently the only Pokemon that does not learn a normal type move. Shoutouts to Weedle. I played Generation 1 and Generation 2 a ton of times, and I never realized that the gyms actually follow a unique order in where each gym leader in Gen 1 is advantageous to the gym leader before them. So Misty's good against Brock, Surge is good against Misty, Erica's good against Surge in a way, right? Koga is good against Erica, and so on and so forth. It's a little bit kind of sketchy there towards the end, but it's actually really interesting. Blaine and Sabrina are, I guess, the exception there. But then you look at the opposite when it comes to the Johto leaders. So Faulkner's good against Bugsy. Bugsy, I guess, is kind of good against Whitney. Whitney's good against Morty rather. Morty's good against Chuck. Chuck is good against Jasmine, and so on and so forth. So it actually, for the most part, works out, and that's something I never really noticed before. So you guys may remember Oricorio, the Pokemon from Sun and Moon, and it has a signature move called Revelation Dance, which changes based on the Pokemon's primary type, which this Oricorio bird can turn from electric to ghost and fire and psychic types, but it turns out it actually focuses on the primary type. So a Pokemon like Skarmory, if it were to use Revelation Dance, it would actually be a steel type move, but Corviknight were to turn it into a flying type move. But Oricorio is the only Pokemon that can learn this move, so a lot of people don't know this mechanic, but you can actually mimic it or metronome it, and then it would actually focus on your primary typing, which I thought was pretty neat. I've done a lot of competitive battling in the day, and I know that my Rock Slides and Stone Edges always miss. It turns out that Rock is actually the least accurate typing in terms of all of the Pokemon universe, and the most accurate typing is actually Ghost. Before Generation 8's introduction of the Isle of Armor move Poltergeist, Ghost-type moves were actually all 100% accurate. So, Poltergeist actually broke that trend with a 90% accurate move, but pretty crazy to see that Ghost-types had the most accurate moves up until that point. This is what I actually knew, but I'm not sure if you guys knew. Back in X and Y, there was a mechanic called Natural Objects, where depending on the moves you used in battle, it could actually cause things to fall or drop in kind of the background. So essentially you could use like Rock Slide and things like that, and it would knock berries from trees outside of battle, which I thought was cool, and I would like to see them do that in the future. I think that would be really neat if they added that into, you know, obviously Scarlet and Violet, where like your battle mechanics actually affect the surroundings and cause things to happen, like new items to drop or stones to break or whatever it may be. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm a shiny hunting expert, and I never knew this one. In Generation 2, due to the fact that shininess and Hidden Power type are both determined by IVs. That part I knew. You can only have Hidden Power Grass or Dragon on your shiny Pokemon, which is pretty crazy, but makes a lot of sense. Generally, the higher the IVs, the higher the chance of being shiny. That's kind of how Gen 2 worked. There's some pretty cool mechanics in terms of how you can breed for shinies and how shinies pass down shiny chance. I would love to see that happen again in future Pokemon games, is like breeding with a shiny gives you a higher chance for a shiny. It makes sense to me, but that was how the old game was formulated. But Grass and Dragon Hidden Power. I recently made a video talking about different type combinations that have never existed, and a lot of people commented, well, what about Dragon and Fairy? And we actually have that with Mega Altaria. We also have Ice and Fire through the new Galarian Darmanitan Zen Mode Snowman form. However, those types do exist in battle. Those are the only two types that exist in battle that cannot exist in the overworld. They have to actually be in battle because you have to Mega Evolve in battle. You have to activate Zen Mode in battle. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Dragon and Fairy and Ice and Fire, the only two existing type combinations that do not exist outside of battling. Maybe that changes in Scarlet and Violet. Some of you guys may know this one, but the way experience is calculated in Generation 1, this is a big speedrunner strat. For Pokemon in the medium slow experience group, they have negative 54 experience at the start of level 1. If they gain 53 or less experience in its next battle, it actually immediately reaches level 100 because of what's called underflow. So this is often a glitch utilized in speedruns where you can actually get a level 100 Nidoking right at the beginning of the game and then ultimately be able to speedrun the game much faster. We all know about escape ropes. They're found often in caves. They allow you to kind of retreat back outside of the beginning of the cave. And in Sword and Shield, they made it a key item, which was super clutch. However, escape ropes can only be used in 2 places in Galar, and that's actually hilarious to find out. There's the 2 different mining caves, one before you take on Milo, and one after Nessa. Those are the only 2 places that you can actually use the escape rope. Otherwise, it's useless. So they made it a key item for 2 things. Good job, Game Freak. Generation 6 introduced the Fairy typing, and it took a lot of old normal type Pokemon and retyped them into Fairy. As a result of this, Generation 5 to 6 actually has the same amount of normal type Pokemon as the previous generation, which is crazy because they added 8 new normal types like Bunnelby and Diggersby and Furfrou, but 8 normal types switched to Fairy, and therefore there's the exact same number of normal types. I thought that was neat. There is only one Pokemon that can evolve twice at level 1. Do you know what that Pokemon is? It's Porygon Z, because you can use the Dubious Disc in the upgrade and get a Porygon Z at level 1. This is what I actually know from kind of my competitive days, but in Ultra Sun and Moon, Silvally was planned to learn the 3 pledge moves. You know, Grass Pledge, Fire Pledge, Water Pledge, the cool pledge moves that can be utilized in VGC. But there's a coding error, so it only learns Grass Pledge, and that actually transferred to Sword and Shield. So you can have a Grass Pledging Silvally and nothing else, which I thought was kind of crazy. It learns Draco Meteor, it learns Steel Beam, so it has different moves, but for some reason it only has Grass Pledge. I wonder if anyone at the offices actually realizes that, because it's kind of a big deal. Did you know there's a handful of Pokemon that can actually die on entry due to entry hazards? Well, the Snom line, Amora line, and Alolan Ninetales line can all die to entry hazards even at full health. You might be wondering how that happens, and it's because of Caparaja's Gigantamax move, which essentially sets up a Steel-type Stealth Rock onto the field. Then you've got regular Stealth Rocks and Spikes, and all of that can add together to essentially add up to 100% of health if their max HP is divisible by 4. So, shoutouts to Snom line, Amora line, and Alolan Ninetales line. Y'all get wrecked by hazards. Archeops is most known for its horrible ability to Fetus, but it's actually National Dex number 567, and it happens to have a unique base stat total of 567 as well. This is the only Pokemon whose National Dex number matches its base stat total. Generation 3 features an unused ability called Cacophony. This is the exact same effect as Soundproof, so it basically makes the Pokemon immune to sound-based moves, but they actually removed it and they never utilized it. And it's kind of weird because there's other abilities that do the exact same thing. It's not like we've never seen abilities that function the same way. It seems as though this was meant to be like a signature ability for Whismur, like the Whismur line, but I guess they just scrapped it. So the ability Cacophony can sometimes be seen in randomizers in Generation 3, but otherwise it's unused. This one is crazy. So Sand Force, Sand Rush, Sand Veil, and Snow Cloak all protect the Pokemon from sandstorm or hail damage respectively, but not Slush Rush. So if you're a non-ice type Pokemon and you acquire the ability Slush Rush, you still take damage from hail. I feel like that has to be an oversight, wouldn't you think? I don't know about y'all, but I've done a lot of EV training in my life, and generally when it comes to EV training, Pokemon will often give EVs for the stat that they're best at. However, there's a few examples where that's not the case, and I think the funniest one is the fact that Shedinja actually gives you 2 HP EVs. Of course, Shedinja famously known for only having 1 HP total, so the fact that it's giving 2 HP EVs is hilarious. There's a few other examples of this. Mandibuzz giving special attack EVs, where it's not a Pokemon that really utilizes its special attack, it's more of a defensive Pokemon. And even Zen Mode Galarian Darmanitan, this is a physical attacker that hits like a truck, and it gives special attack EVs as well. So just kind of strange. I wonder if this was a mistake. I feel like the Shedinja makes me think it was intentional though. Just kind of like a meme, you know? I've always thought that the shiny Pokemon that turned black were some of the best, but did you know that in Generation 2, and I guess Generation 1 as well, Shiny Charizard, one of the most famous shiny Pokemon, actually was purple. It was purple with green wings before it is black with red wings, which I find to be actually insane, and it makes it one of the rarer shinies you can have. If you were to go all the way back to Generation 2 and get yourself a Shiny Charizard, it would actually, like I said, be purple with green wings. That's pretty nuts. I hope you enjoyed hearing about all these different insane Pokemon facts, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Let me know which ones you knew or didn't know in the comments section below, and if you'd like to see a follow-up video, let me know. Show your love, and that's gonna be that for me, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.